Hi, I'm State Representative Mark Gillen from the 128th Legislative District in Berks County. It's my great privilege to be with my friend, Secretary of Agriculture in Pennsylvania, Russ Redding.
It's great to
We've
see
done
you.
this rodeo a number of times, and it's always a delight, and I always come away learning something.
Likewise.
You have a wealth of expertise. I just got off of the merry-go-round over there. It was $3, and my daughter pointed out to me, my 11-year-old daughter, that it was 2 for $5. And I said, do you have somebody in mind? She goes, Dad, I said, can I do the seat instead of the horse? Yeah, there's a point in all this. I'm standing there before we got on, and these little kids, there's something for everybody at the farm show. It doesn't matter whether you're 2 years old or you're 70 years old. So that's what I enjoy about it. Families of all ages and types come here, and we've been doing this tradition, maybe not in this location, since 1917?
Yeah, 1970. This is 109 years, so 1917.
And
got it.
You've been here for most?
I don't think so.
Right.
No. It's interesting you talk about families. So we have an international delegation here, 29 countries. And the folks from the UK who are here were struck by the number of families at the show, and her point was that it's really unusual to see in a place of agriculture, right? Families coming together. You look all over the place, and the family units are in here, and she was really struck with that. So it sort of, it caused me to sort of like step back and say, yeah, what a great idea.
Let me come off the vine for a moment. You're talking about families, Secretary. The family unit is struggling, in America as it is all over the world. And I think of how much the family unit was anchored to the land in the past.
Right.
Your job was, of course there was factory work, but your job when you opened the door was right there in front of you, and everybody worked together and everybody pulled together. I know we're trying to maintain that. How successful are we with the family farm, maintaining that unit?
Well, I think, in Pennsylvania, I think it's one of our blessings. I mean, to have smaller operations, diverse operations, multiple enterprises, folks are innovative, they're creative. Part of that's driven out of a limited land base, but they've got also options in terms of protein production. I say, how blessed we are to have poultry and ducks and dairy and beef and hogs, and then importantly to have the processing that supports that. That helps, right? But we've got more young farmers under the age of 35 than any other state in the nation.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
A personal experience in my own neighborhood. We're in southern Berks County. We're not far from the Lancaster line. A couple years ago, I started seeing manure in the middle of the street while we were driving, and pretty soon the buggies appeared. And in fact, I went to the township supervisor and I said, hey, this is Berks County. It's not quite the flat 40 of Lancaster, and I'm concerned about the curves and the hills and so on. And so they were accommodated and put signs up. But a couple thoughts and a question.
Yeah.
All right, the Amish are moving in to southern Berks County, and I'm sure it's not an anomaly. They're coming in to other places. Scarcity of land. They need room to grow, and Lancaster is pretty much bought up. Is that your experience?
No, that's true. Yeah. No, listen, I live in Adams, and just in the last 3 years, the families are coming over to Adams County. I've been in Franklin, and I've been up through the valley. I've been to traditional places where Amish populations have been historically, and I've been places where I've been surprised. To your point about I've met them on the road, right? But they're moving. I mean, the land is gobbled up. It's being used, and thankfully in Lancaster particularly, where you've got a really aggressive preservation program.
Like Berks,
And like Berks, but there's only so much land.
Right. This answer may be a little bit elusive, but the property values in our area are going up, and a lot of it has been attributed to the arrival of the Amish coming in. We've got 41 and a half acres, and it's probably worth 3 times, according to what some people in real estate are telling me, than what we purchased it for even 12 years ago. Have you experienced that phenomena? Are you aware of that? Are the Amish moving into these areas that property values are rising?
They're rising. There are contributors to this of, use of land for solar, use of land for warehouses, single-family houses. From 2017 to 2023, the U.S. Census of Agriculture noted that we lost 200,000 acres of prime agricultural land in PA. So you can see the dynamic. No one should be standing around in wonderment, right? Land is valuable. Good agricultural land is even more valuable. And then you've got the general escalation of appreciation of value.
Right. My family has suggested when they heard these numbers, well, Dad, you should sell this. I go, and then I have to buy something also.
Right.
Where the Scottish Highlanders going. For us as a family, without being too silly, I call this the gentleman's farm, which means we build character in our children and we lose money while we're doing it, because we've tried our hand at a little bit of everything.
Right.
I went in with my eyes wide open when we got a herd of alpaca. I explained to my daughter, this is not get rich quick, this is a question of how much money we'll lose, but I want you to go through the whole process.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got your herd, we're going to harvest, fiber here, it's going to the mill, and we did lose money, but I'm absolutely glad that we did it. But I spoke a few minutes ago, and looking over at my family there, about my own children, the character development opportunities in agriculture. As we look to my left, my one daughter sitting down, she's getting ready to graduate from college in May. She's in Army ROTC, all right? And she's going to be deployed, she's going to be military police, the whole 9 yards. I really believe a seminal element in her life was the 4-H program. Muscling those sheep around. She was homeschooled. So one of her instructors, recognizing her physical prowess, is saying, well, what sports did you do in high school? And she said, oh, I didn't do any high school sports. He put his hand on his hip like, you're gaming me. And she goes, well, I did 4-H. And he's like, what the bleep? What's going on here? But you've got heavyweight sheep, you've got rams. There's a lot of activity out there. What say ye on the character development possibilities that exist in 4-H, FFA, just the farming community in general, in terms of seeing a young person, maybe not, I don't see her in full-time ag, but being successful in some area and arena of life. It's important.
It's central. I've got 2 boys, and I can tell a similar story, but it boils down for us, when we think about 4-H and the influence, there's 2 things they instinctively do that tells us that they were in the 4-H. One was they extend their hand and they look you in the eye, right? They acknowledge you, they make eye contact with you, and then it starts this wonderful conversation. And we're like, maybe you've seen us do that, but it's sort of being indoctrinated in a really good, important way of education and socialization. And I think about 4-H and FFA doing that. They put the culture in agriculture, right, in so many respects, and we're lucky.
One of the most seminal positions I ever had in life, I'm a state representative now, was when I was a newspaper boy in Philadelphia. Now, it's hard to connect the dots, but the point that I want to make, and it's similar to the one that you just made, relative to, here's a 10-year-old kid, and he's got to show up with the newspaper and on time, all weather, 365, and you greet people, you make that eye contact, and you've got to collect on Friday the money for delivering the newspapers all week. And so I tell my children, and I'm not sure if they actually believe me or not, that the most important job that I ever had developmentally was delivering newspapers. What about you, Mr. Secretary? Look back in your mind's eye, and it probably involved agriculture. For me, it wasn't agriculture. We grew into that role. For you, what was it developmentally?
So it was agriculture.
It was.
I'm one of 11 children. I'm number 10 on the lineup, and say that in our family, at least, you had a pre-70 and a post-70 group. And my dad, really made a lot of investments in innovation when the workforce started to, before it was a real issue of workforce, when the older children, siblings were heading off. And the way that I got a chance to do those certain things, that when you graduated within the family to be a milker, right? And this is only upon reflection, but I think about that. And number 2, My mother had passed away very early, so my dad was managing this farm and us and families and that family unit. But the way he sort of instilled in us the work ethic, the opportunity, the chance to really take a lot of risk and things, that we were making decisions as really young men and women in our family. But I've always thought about that he knew that he was teaching us, right? He was giving us an opportunity to contribute and be helpful. So that was important.
Thank you. You know, not only have I thoroughly enjoyed the interview, I thoroughly enjoyed spending time with the secretary, because he's a man of enormous character, and I think what he inculcates into this current generation is going to carry young people like my daughter into ROTC and who knows what other careers. So thank you for joining me, Secretary.
Happy New Year, happy farm show.
I'll look forward to seeing you at the milking contest on Friday.
Excellent, good deal.
Thank you for joining us today. This is State Representative Mark Gillen, the 128th Legislative District in Berks County, signing off at the Pennsylvania Farm Show.